just a reminder on how we did this. When we're solving for y, we move the x first, so the opposite of positive 3x is negative 3x. We'll do this pretty fast here because we already went over it in class. You bring down, don't forget the negative 2y. This goes in front because it's mx in front of b. Then you divide by the exact same number in front of y, the coefficient. You can reduce in Desmos, and you should get 3 over 2x plus 9. Okay, make sure you're turning in these assignments. I did give you an updated grade today with your up till, I think, the 11th put in. And we did take a quiz yesterday, but I know there was some technical difficulties, so if you want to retake it on paper today for full credit, we can. Let's just get through these notes. First, here we go. All right, now, today we're graphing. Hopefully you're confident on graphing regular lines, equations. But today we're going to graph inequalities, okay? So make sure you're not doing something on that computer. All right, so first things first. Inequalities, greater than, less than, right? When you graph them, there's going to be shading. It's going to be shaded above or shaded below, okay? So when it's shaded above, it's going to be either greater than or greater than or equal to. That's when you shade above the line. It's going to be below the line when it's less than or equal to. Do you see which way these symbols are going? I know we've talked about it before, but you got to know the greater than sign points to the right. The less than sign points to the left, looks like an L, okay? Now, when you draw your line, there's two types of lines. There's a solid line, and then there's a dashed line. So a solid line is going to be underlined. So less than or equal, greater than or equal. That's when you know it's going to be a regular solid line. You should be writing this down, right? But here's something new. Your line is going to look dashed. You're going to have to make it look dashed when it does not have the underline, when it's less than or greater than. So again, it's solid when it's underlined, and it is when there's no underline, it's dashed. Okay? That's the rules. So let's look at this example. Example 1. Okay. Now, first, let's make sure we got some protractors. A straight edge to make straight lines here. Okie dokie. Now, y'all remember, I know this is not an equation, but y'all remember the equation, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. When it's y by itself, what do I graph first, the m or the b? B is where we begin, right? Now, we do begin at positive 2. So go ahead and put a point at 2 on the y-axis, right here. Okay. So begin at the b y-intercept, and then rise over run. It's negative 1 over 3. Does that mean it's going to go up or down? Negative is down 1, and it runs 3, always to the right, like a Mario game. Now, once you have two lines, you can use your protractor, but hold up. Is it going to be a solid line or a dashed line? So let's look at this inequality. Do you see right here how it's underlined? Underlined means you're going to have a normal, solid, straight line, okay? So go ahead and connect those two points with a nice straight line. Okay. Ay. All right, now, here's the deal. We want to know where the solutions are. So solutions are found in the shaded area or on a solid line. There are no solutions on a dashed line. So we have the correct line. We really now need to make sure we shade. You're not doing inequalities correctly unless you shade it. So let's look at this inequality. Is this a greater than or a less than sign? It's a greater than sign. We said greater than signs get shaded above. Doesn't that make sense? Greater is up, above. So go ahead and lightly shade everything over here. Okay, don't spend a ton of time making it super dark. It's just make a nice little shade above. Cool. Now here's the question. What's the solution? In the past, for an equation, the solution is where it touches x. Okay, but not anymore. For this, inequalities, it's a little bit different. The solutions are in two places, either the shaded area or on a solid line. Okay, so let's pick a point on a solid line. This line is solid, so I could pick like literally this point right here. What is that? 3, 1? 3, 1 is on the solid line. That's a solution. Sorry. And then you could pick any point. Sorry, like I was trying to say, the shaded area. So like, look, this point right here, that's in the shaded area. Make sure you're looking up here again. Sorry. This point right here, like, do you see any point up here is in the shaded area? So you could pick one, okay? I'm picking this one right here. So a shaded point, I'm going to pick this one right here at 5, 4. That's a solution, okay? Sometimes you'll get this backwards where they'll give you some points and ask you, is it a solution? So you know a point is a solution if it's in the shaded area or a solid line. Now, what's an example of a non-solution? Well, I'll pick some random point down here in the unshaded area. 2, -2. Well, that's an example of a non-solution, not in the shaded area. Okay, so our notes are half done. Do you understand how to graph B and then you rise over run? You got to make sure you have the right type of line. You got to make sure you shade the right way, and then pick solution and non-solution points, okay? The bottom part, okay, this is important. To graph it, it must be in slope-intercept form, that y equals form. Doesn't that remind you of today, Monday and Tuesday's warm-up, where we're getting it into y equals format, okay? That's the only way to graph the inequality, so make sure you know those steps. That's why we do those warm-ups. Now, this is a very important rule, okay? Super important. In inequalities, if you multiply by a negative number, you must flip the direction of your inequality sign, okay? Very important that you understand this step. I'm going to show you on this next example what I mean. But does everyone see this very important rule? This rule is where most people forget or miss it or mess it up. So if you find yourself multiplying or dividing by a negative, then your less than greater than sign is going to flip around. Okay? Let's see it in action. Ready? Now, is this example slope-intercept, where y is by itself on the left side? No. Okay? It's kind of like our warm-up today. X and y are both on the left. So just like our warm-up, what do I need to get rid of first on this side? 2x or 3? The x term, the 2x's got to go. What's the opposite of positive 2x? Negative or minus 2x? Minus 2x. Be careful right here. What you bring down, it's not just 3y, it's that minus or negative 3y. Cool. Now, All I did was subtract. That does not change your sign. So it's still going to be a less than symbol. But remember, I'm going to put the mx in front of the b. So negative 2x goes first, minus 12 goes second. Cool? Now, here's my last step. How do I get rid of the number in front of y? Divide, right? So we divide by negative 3 everywhere. The negative 3's cancel, so now I have y. But what did I just do? Everything got divided. Did I divide by a negative? I did, right? I divided by a negative number, so that means I must flip the direction of the inequality sign. So check it out. This is now going to be a greater than sign. I'm changing the color so you see what changed. Less than turns to greater than, or vice versa, only if you multiply or divide by a negative number. So if I divided by a positive number, nothing changes. Only dividing or multiplying by a negative. Okay, make sure we emphasize that. Now check this out. Negative divided by negative is a positive fraction, 2 over 3x. Negative 12 divided by negative 3 is a positive 4. You can reduce those fractions in Desmos easily by just typing them in. Okay, now let's remember how to graph this thing. We need to, when we have y by itself, do we graph m or b first? B for beginning, right? The plus 4, go ahead and put a point at positive 4. And then my slope is 2 over 3. It's positive. So rights 2, run 3. Up 2, right 3. Okay? Before you connect it, what kind of line? Is it going to be solid or dashed? So let's look at it. Does this inequality have an underline? No. And we said no underline means dashed. Okay? So what does that mean, Mr. G? Let me tell you. So you're going to put your protractor, make it nice and straight, but when you draw your line, you're just going to like draw little pieces of it and leave some gaps so that way it looks dashed. This is what a dashed line looks like. It's a bunch of little segments. Okay. Make sure you leave spaces that I can tell it's not a solid line, right? Hey. Now, the next thing we got to do is shade. Are we shading above or below? Now look, the original inequality was less than. If you don't change it, less than would be below, right? But since we divided by a negative, we had to flip it, and now it's a greater than sign. Am I going to shade above or below? This means I'm shading above. So that is how you do it. Check it out. If I want a solution, it has to be in the shaded area or a solid line. Now, by the way, do y'all see I don't have a solid line? I cannot pick the point 0,4. That's not in the shaded area. So I'm going to pick some random point over here in the shaded area, negative 3, 5. That'll work. And a non-solution, I could pick on the dashed line, 0, 4. I'm just showing that above it. Since it's a dashed line, it could be on the dashed line, or just somewhere out here in space in the unshaded area. 2, 2 is also not a solution. Okay, that's it. That's the notes. There's no assignment on this because we're going to use that tomorrow to graph more than one inequality, see where they overlap, and then you'll have an assignment after that tomorrow. So no new assignment today. Everybody, if you didn't take a quiz yesterday, I'm going to give it to you on paper. If you did take it yesterday and you want to keep your grade, that's fine. But if you saw that you got a weird low grade for not missing that many, I agree. That doesn't make sense. So you can retake it on paper right now. Okay? So if you want to retake it, talk to me here in a second. Here we go.